Hey everyone, my name is Susan and this is my very first YouTube video. So I wanted to start off this channel by introducing myself so you can get to know me a little bit better. And I thought, what better way to do it than by doing the Booktube Newbie Tag. So question 1, why did you start this channel? So I really wanted to start this channel for two main reasons. The first, I wanted to document what I'm reading and kind of have this be a little capsule of my life in this moment in time. So I really want to look back in a couple months or years and see how my tastes have changed over time, or whether I'm still into the same books or genres or authors, and see how that kind of grows and develops. And the other reason is that I just love talking about books. I love consuming content, so I wanted this to be an outlet where I can connect with like-minded individuals who maybe enjoy the same genres as I do, and we can chat about it, give each other recommendations, and just have a space where I can just freely share my thoughts and reflect on the things that I'm reading. Question 2. What are some fun and unique things you can bring to Booktube? This I think is a really good question because I already feel like there's such a great community out there on Booktube. So really what I'm bringing is my own experience, right? I think it's a little bit cliche, but it's true. I think everyone brings their unique perspective whenever they're reading a book or entering a character's mind. So even if you're reading the same story, different people can pull out different meanings or resonate with something a little bit different, or underline or quote something that might have stuck with them over time. So I want to be able to just add in my voice to the conversation. The other thing that I want to hopefully bring over into Booktube is maybe some overlap with some of my other hobbies. So while I love reading books, I also really enjoy playing video games and watching shows and movies, so I'm hoping to sprinkle that in here as well. Question 3, what are you most excited for about this new channel? Learning how to hopefully edit videos. That's a skill that I've always wanted to learn how to do, but I've just been too intimidated by it. So hopefully this will give me the motivation to do that. The other thing is really just connecting with people. I'm pretty introverted, so it's really hard for me to talk to people in person about things that I really enjoy, that I'm passionate about. So I'm hoping this will be a safe space for me to share my thoughts on what I'm reading or playing or consuming, and hopefully start a conversation with you guys out there. Yeah, I would love to hear recommendations. Question 4, why do you enjoy reading? So I think this is a pretty common answer as well, but I think for me, it's definitely that feeling of escapism. So my favorite genres are fantasy and sci-fi, and they're the perfect type of book to just get lost in. So I love learning about different magic systems, or being in a different time period or in an imaginary world, encountering imaginary creatures, because I feel like you can just get lost in those kinds of places. So I really love the escapism aspect of it, and I feel like there's so much. Oftentimes with a lot of the fantasy books that I read, the author puts so much research and backstory into it. That's a whole nother rabbit hole that I love to delve into, is how a book gets created in the first place and how much research and effort and talent goes into it behind the scenes. I just props to those authors. I just am in awe and respect of them. Question 5, what book or series got you into reading? So, I think as a millennial, growing up, it was definitely the Harry Potter series. So that one definitely sticks out to me in my memory, because I recall so vividly going to Borders at midnight with my dad, waiting for the Goblet of Fire to come out, and there's all these other kids, and so many people were dressed up in robes and repping their houses. And I just remember being so excited to get that book, go home, and rip open that book, because I would just became completely consumed by the whole setting, the story, the characters, and that was one of the first series that really got me hooked into reading. I think even in 3rd grade, I remember my teacher, during our 1 hour storybook time, I think it was once a week or something, she would actually sit down and read us a chapter of Harry Potter, and that was actually my first introduction to the series, and it just grabbed me from there. After that, I think it was The Hunger Games was kind of the next series that really grabbed a hold of me. I think that, combined with the movies, just fueled my love for the fantasy genre, and having a strong female main character like in The Hunger Games, those are my favorite kind of stories. So those are the ones that I really gravitate towards. And then around college time, I definitely fell out of love, not out of love, but I definitely didn't read for fun as much anymore. Most of my time is consumed with reading for school, and so nothing really grabbed my attention and kept me engrossed in the same way as those earlier series did. It wasn't until about a year and a half ago when I came across a little series called Agatar. Like many other people on Booktube, this was the series that got me back into reading for fun. Shortly thereafter, I read Fourth Wing, and the whole romantasy genre has just been top of my list ever since then. Question 6. What questions would you ask your favorite booktubers? I think there's 2 questions that I would love to ask my favorite booktubers. The first one being, what was your favorite book-related memory? And it doesn't have to be one that they filmed or made a video for, but what was one of their earliest favorite book-related memories? I'd love to kind of understand what got them into reading, what hooked them from the beginning, understand that journey a little bit. Then the second question I would want to ask is, how do you get out of a reading slump or a reading hangover? I think that one is a little bit harder for me, because for a hangover, it's you've just finished a 5-star, 6-star book, and you have this feeling of, man, all I want to do is just reread that book or series for the first time. How do you get over that feeling and keep on finding your next book or next 5-star read? Question 7. What challenges do you think starting a booktube channel will be the hardest to overcome? So for this one, for me, is definitely being consistent about posting. I am a very slow reader, so it takes me a long time to actually finish a book. I really want to allow myself the time to reflect on what I'm reading and really truly absorb it. So I think being consistent with actually posting videos on new books that I'm reading is going to be a little bit difficult. And kind of like how I mentioned earlier, I've never edited videos before, so on the technical side of things, I think that will also be a bit of a challenge. The last thing I'll say is, I think for this is a little bit of a challenge to myself, because I'm definitely big self-critic. So putting myself out there on the internet, I think is going to be a really difficult thing for me to overcome, and just getting out of my head and not being a perfectionist about what I put out there. Question 8. When did you start reading? So I don't really remember a time in my life when I wasn't surrounded by books. So my dad was a librarian. My mom also really loved to read and really encouraged it when I was a kid. So we always had shelves on shelves of books in the house when I was growing up. And I was a very shy, introverted kid, still am. So I would definitely spend my times more inside reading than going outside and playing or doing anything else. So that was my pastime growing up, was actually reading. Yeah, I think, and even now, some of my favorite things to do is just to go to a bookstore or go to a cafe. And those are just my favorite places, honestly. Just going there, looking at all the books on the shelves, just being surrounded by possibilities and stories that I have yet to read, I think is some of the most exciting things that you can find, and it's really honestly just a joy. Question 9. Where do you read? So I typically read in bed right before I go to sleep. It's part of my like wind down nighttime routine. It's my favorite thing to do, to just kind of snuggle up with a good book, a blanket, and just read. It's the best. It's the best feeling. I do prefer reading with a physical book when I'm at home. I think there's just something that's so comforting about physically turning a page and holding the books in your hands. Oh, it is just one of the most satisfying things. But that's definitely not feasible all the time. So I do have a Kindle, and so when I'm out and about, I will always have my Kindle on me. So yeah, definitely I like both, but I prefer physical books. Question 10. What kind of books do you like to read? So kind of mentioned this earlier, but my favorite genres are definitely sci-fi and fantasy. I do love also the romantasy genre. Fallen in love with that over the past year and a half. Recently, I've been trying out a little bit of literary fiction and some contemporary romance, and I've never been much of a romance girly, honestly. But I thought, okay, if I like romantasy, shouldn't I like contemporary romance? So I've been dipping my toes into that a little bit, and that's been kind of fun. One of the things that I really want to challenge myself with, though, is going back and reading some classics. And I say going back because I feel like I've had classics on my TBR for years and years and years, and it keeps getting pushed down as a new book comes out or a new series comes out, and I'll go, yeah, I'll get to those later, and then I never do. So that's something that I really want to challenge myself to actually start and finish a classic this year. So if you have any good recommendations for kind of someone going back into the classics world, or maybe your favorite classics book that you have ever read, please let me know. I would love to hear your recommendations. Some of the other genres that I'm definitely open to trying, but I've never really, for some reason, picked up, like mystery and thrillers. So I'm a little bit of a scaredy cat, so I just cannot take scary movies. So maybe that's why I haven't actually picked up any mysteries or thrillers. But I'm willing to try that genre out. I just usually don't gravitate towards it for some reason. And the same thing with like some nonfiction books or memoirs. Again, I feel like those aren't the first genres that I tend to gravitate towards, but I am totally open to trying it out. I think that's another goal of this channel, is to just broaden my horizons and try out other genres that I've had my eye on, but been a little bit too scared to try out. So yeah. So if you stayed until the end, I just want to thank you for being here for my very first Booktube video, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Bye! Why not? Booktube Newbie Book Tab. I thought it only book tab. Okay. This is so awkward.